Verification of public notice and approval of agenda with 2 amendments to the agenda. The first amendment comes on item 2, staffing, B, employment, number 2, Grace Lear, changing from basketball of girls grade 7 head coach to girls JV high school coach. And the second amendment is under action items. There will be a new item, number 5. It will be titled Negotiations Personnel. And item A. It will be titled Unpaid Leave of Absence Request, Medical Leave for Professional Staff.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Adam, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moment of silence to reflect on the business at hand. Item D, Watoma Area School District Strategic Plan.
Mission statement, creating positive foundations for the success of our children. Business community involvement throughout internship, job shadowing, and mentorship.
Develop marketing of the district and community through branding.
Improve work and people skills.
Develop parental contacts promoting school involvement.
Build productive relationships with the medical field to increase the support and open lines of communication to support students with mental health issues.
Item E, recognition of persons wishing to address the board. None. Item F, student staff presentations. Item 1, sources of strength.
All right. I'm sure you guys did a ton of presentations, so I'll try not to take up too much of your time. But for those of you who do not know me, my name is Abby Peterman, and I'm currently a senior at Watoma High School. I'm presenting a little bit about sources of strength, which is a new club that was introduced last year to the high school. On the presentation in front of the board members, source of strength is a group of high school members who are selected by faculty members, and we all underwent training last year and this year by 2 individuals from the Fox Valley area. They taught us different things about how to help students with mental health issues and just how to empower students in general. The training day just taught us about different sources. And on the page you'll see a wheel, which is just different things that we will follow as peer leaders. They showed us what it meant to be a peer leader. We did various activities and talked about our own struggles and how we can help each other just in a group setting. And now our group meets about once a month with we have some faculty members, so Ms. Stiles, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Vaughn, and Ms. Appel are some faculty members that we have, and then we have Ms. Miller and Ms. Holland, who are our leaders, and they help us too. They just help organize things, and this year we did a dodgeball tournament, which it was just to get some engagement through with students, and they were, each time that we did a different round, we were teaching them a different part of the wheel, like healthy activities or spirituality, and how you can use that in your own day-to-day life. And now, last year we did a video which was shown to all the homerooms and start with the teacher, and it just each of our peer leaders were interviewed, and we just talked about how the wheel empowers us as individuals. And then as of what source of strength is, it's a fight against teen suicide. It brings light to mental health issues and just different ways that it'll help teens just cope with the different pressures of high school. And sometimes mental health with students can be overlooked, which is obviously something we don't want to do. And at Watoma High School, our main goal is just to make it a safe space for people to express themselves, and just a safe space in general, just a place to feel welcome by all. And then, obviously, like I said before, we just do that by supporting, empowering, and giving hope to others, and showcasing examples from the wheels, which are mental health, family support, positive health, family support, positive friends, mentors, healthy activities, generosity, spirituality. And then we also made a social media Instagram page, which helps reach a lot of students, because obviously Instagram is a platform that's used a lot by our students, and we're going to start posting more regularly with some of our other peer leaders, and just different tips on how we keep a balance in our life through mental health issues. And obviously, we're going to be doing more activities in the upcoming months, but we just really want to make sure that mental health is not overlooked at Watoma High School, and obviously this can be something that can be implemented in the middle school, and just if this goes well, and we're just trying to get our name out there, and that's obviously why I'm presenting to you guys today, just to bring light to our new group. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm open to any questions, but if not, I won't take up as much more of your time.
Abby, so you guys, obviously the people in the group here are the ambassadors for this
Yeah.
group. If a student, someone in the school system has questions, are they coming to you? Are they coming to guidance? Are they coming to administration? How are
Yeah, so a lot of the students now, because of that video that was put out last year, they know who the peer leaders are, and obviously in the video, like, you can come to us if you have like any questions, and we're just really, if they have like a question like, how do you deal with like the pile of, obviously a big thing that we're seeing is students were stressed out about like cohort days last year, for example, homework piles, and we would give them examples on how to, you know, relieve that stress a little bit, like, you know, oh, you could be able to talk to your teachers, or you could be able to go in for extra help, or if you need, here's Miss Holland, here's Miss Miller's resources, or here's a social worker, like anything like that. We would just give them tips, and like, for example, like when I'm like stressed out with homework, I take a minute to like debrief and just like, you know, like listen to music or something, just again, like going back to that well-being, like here's like a positive activity that I help to bring myself back in balance.
And then if you guys feel like it's serious, then you're interacting with guidance.
Yes.
And referring that up.
Yeah, and obviously we would all be like reporters, so we would report that to either Miss Miller or Miss Holland. But yeah, it's a good thing too, because the staff members too obviously got their name out there, so they would be considered trusted adults. So like Mr. Vaughn, like they could go to Mr. Vaughn or Ms. Appel, and just the same thing, and we would like help them do that with like the wheel and just think about different things like that.
Good.
Any other questions? All right, not too bad.
Thank you. Item 2, 2020-21 state assessment data.
Yep. So you have a packet in front of you, and this is the state assessment data over the this year.
I just forgot to make my copies for
I saw the course proposal on there. I forgot my copies at school.
No, I'm good.
Well, sir, we're almost done, but
I was keeping an eye on it.
sir, if you while you're doing that, I can just you know, the very first page that you see on there is COVID cautions, and just again, just to keep that frame of reference, you'll see that a lot with the report card next month when I bring the report card forward, the accountability report card. But because so many school districts were not in session last year, and when all the assessment took place, a lot of districts didn't test. They could get a waiver not to test. And so you're going to see it here from the state perspective. There's a hefty percentage of students who did not take assessments last year. That obviously plays into the whole configuring of like state average, how close we are to the state, just adding to the totality of that data. So, and then you also have that there was no testing in the spring of 2020 because we were out. So you have no testing in 2020. You have a large group of students who weren't here. If you think Madison, Green Bay, Milwaukee, were all virtual. And so that's a big chunk of students. Some tested, some didn't. Sarah will share how she got almost everybody to test for Watoma, but I'll let her share that. But that's sort of the COVID caution. All right, Sarah, you ready to start?
Yeah, you'll notice when you get there. Usually there's not a gray color on the bar chart, and if it is, you can't see it because usually test participation rate across the state is very good. Ours, I think, at some buildings was as low as like 0.5% of our students didn't test. We have some local districts in our conference that had, you know, in some cases more than 20% of their students not test. So we did a really nice job as an admin team in building principals getting our kids in and getting them tested within the window. So our data is fairly comprehensive, but again, like Tom said, the state data is not, especially at the high school level. It seemed like there was more issues with schools getting testing done at those levels, probably because there's less of a window in the summer as well. So that being said, I'm just going to kind of make sure you understand what you're looking at on each slide. Not planning on necessarily speaking. Inferentially, Tom will be presenting next month the school report card, which will become public on the 16th of November. And Tom will speak to that, and that's where kind of some of those more concluding or observational comments we made. But I just want to make sure you understand what you're looking at here, and then again, feel free to come back with questions as you have them. So I'm just going to kind of make sure you have the data. The difference between this data and the report card data is the report card data is all on a 3-year average, whereas this data is specific to the students of last year. Okay, so that's why I felt like it was still important to show you this, because this gives us a snapshot of what last year looked like in isolation. Go ahead. So I'm going to go through the forward exam scores for each building. Obviously, Riverview only has 1 grade that tests. So their data is different students every year, which makes it a little bit interesting to look at. You can see our data, our bar graph is on the left side, the state is on the right. I did not put a color code on here, but it's going to be the same for every slide. Okay, so the blue on the bottom is advanced, the purple is proficient, so that's where we want to see color, right? And then the yellow is basic, orange is below basic. Okay. So this is our data as of last year. Again, that'd be the current 4th graders. You can see the trends. I put trends for you as to the percent. Those percents represent the number of students proficient and advanced together. Okay. So you can see obviously the state's proficient and advanced in ELA, for example, went down 10% for 3rd graders. So you can see that there. And then math on the right side.
Sorry, Sarah, what are the labels again? The orange is considered what?
Orange is below basic.
Basic, below basic.
So this is advanced, proficient, basic, below basic. So there's 4 categories. It's high to low towards the top.
And gray is not tested.
Gray is not tested. So you can see it as a state as a whole. And this is just 3rd graders, 11.9%, 12% did not test. Okay. So red granite, I compared, I pulled the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade data at the state because those are the grades that test at red granite. So this is comparing them to those grades across the state. So again, you can see our ELA on the left side. You can see math on the right side. Okay, notice that, the state average also went down. Again, like Tom said, that's hard to interpret right now because we don't know where those 11.9% of students would have fallen had they taken it. But that's the data that we have. Okay. Then I'm going to show you some cohort trends. Okay, so when you see the word cohort on the slide, what you're looking at is the same group of kids year after year. Now, obviously, this group only has 1 year, right? They haven't taken it more than once. So this is the 3rd graders as of last year and where they scored. You are going to see a black dot on the slide. The black dot is the state average. Okay. So this, for example, is where the state's average of proficient and advanced were. Okay, so if you look at our proficient and advanced, we're well above where that line is for our red granite 3rd grade class. So pay attention to where our blue line stops and where the black dot is, and that'll give you the state comparison. That's ELA, or the 3rd graders. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one. So this would be red granite's 4th graders. Again, they would normally have comparison data, but the year that they were 3rd graders, we didn't say test. So they also don't have trends. Yes?
What's the sample size here? How big is this cohort?
To be your current 5th grade class.
That's about 18.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. So this would be your 5th grade. Okay, so here's the first class in which you're going to see the same group of kids testing, but again, there's a year in between. So you're going to see their 3rd grade ELA and their 5th grade ELA, their 3rd grade math, their 5th grade math.
And this is 8 kids.
So this is a very small sample size. And I think, one thing that I noticed in looking at it is that at the elementary level, the ELA seemed to be hit more across the board, whereas I felt like at the secondary level, math was hit a little bit harder with COVID. You can see the black dot. If you look at the black dot from one to the next, you can see where the state average for that class of students also decreased. All right.
And I think, if you don't mind, again, that whole COVID piece, it's every school district in the state, but again, no school from March through May of 2020, and then 6 weeks of 5 days a week, with 30% of the kids virtual in this district, and then hybrid almost up to Christmas, then 4 days a week until March, and then 5 days a week. So again, all those things come into play. Some school districts were able to go 5 days a week last year. Some didn't go, some never left virtual. So just the data is all over the place.
All right, so we're gonna look at Parkside School next. This is Parkside School as a whole. Okay, so all the grades combined, so be your 4th through 8th graders last year. So your current 5th through 9th graders. You can see again where the amount of students in the state that didn't test is about the same as it was in the other schools that we just looked at. About 13% of the state did not test. If you look at the tables, that's going to show you our 3-year trend. Again, we want those numbers high because those numbers are the number of students proficient advanced. But you can see if you look at the state data trend, you can see where that, obviously COVID has impacted as well. All right, then we're going to look at each of the cohorts. Okay, so again, cohorts, remember, is the same students multiple years in a row. So you can see underneath the table what grade they were in. Again, 4th graders would normally have cohort, but they didn't test last year. So this is the current data that we have. Again, you can see ELA on the left, math on the right. Go ahead, Caitlin. So now you're going to see the rest of these graphs will have more than one column because they've tested more than 1 year on the board exam. So this would be last year's 5th graders in ELA between 3rd and 5th grade, again, the 2 years apart, and then their math scores as well. To be your current 7th graders last year, these students were in 6th grade, graduating class of 2027. So again, on the left side of the slide, I put there for you their ELA scores over 3rd, 4th, and 6th grade, and then their math scores 3rd, 4th, and 6th grade. Now I'm going to put them on different slides because I had too many columns. Okay, so this is last year's 7th grade class. This is their ELA trend over time. Going all the way back to when they were 3rd graders, moving towards when they were 7th graders as of last year. And then you also have that 7th grade class from last year. This would be their math scores. Again, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th grade. You'll notice the black, if you follow the black dots, notice we kind of followed the black dots as well. Right, the black dots representing the state average of scores there. Okay. This would be your 8th grade class last year. Again, I have more historical data, the more years they've taken it. So this is their ELA scores over 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and then 8th grade because they did not test in 7th grade. Okay. This would be the last year's 8th graders. This would be that same group of students as the previous slide, but this would be in relation to their math achievement data. All the data you're going to see tonight is achievement data. Typically, I have growth data to show you, which shows how they grew from year to year. The state chose not to calculate that data this year. It's still on their report card, but I don't have access to it on my WASD.
Which means they don't want you to see how they did it.
I think my inference would be that the SGPs and things were harder to calculate too, having less students in the testing group. So here you're going to look at high school data. Okay, so the high school, to remind you, the high school does not take a board exam other than for social studies in 10th grade. They take the Aspire test in 9th and 10th grade, which is actually going to get retired this year. They haven't officially decided what they're replacing that with. Rumors I've heard is that it might be the pre-ACT, which is something we already use in district. So that will affect our ability to look at trends in the future because the testing form is going to change again. And then obviously you're familiar with the ACT test at the junior year. Okay. So this, I split the data into 2 parts, Aspire data and ACT data. So this is your Aspire data for 9th and 10th graders together. Again, look at 20% of the state didn't test. So again, it makes that comparison a little bit difficult. So this is going to be your 9th graders ELA. Okay, this is somewhat of a difficult comparison because again, we're changing the testing, the mode of the test. We're going from the first 4 columns being the 4 exams and the last column being the Aspire. But it's still calculating proficient and advanced, and I think it's still a helpful comparison for us. So this is that class of students trajectory over time, to be your current sophomores. Caitlin, you want to go to the next slide? The next slide will be the same group of students, but their math trend over time. This group of students did not test in 8th grade. That would have been the year that they did not test. So you're missing 8th grade data for them in ELA and math. Okay, this would be your 10th graders. So this would be your current junior class preparing to take the ACT. This is the ELA scores of that class over time compared to the state average. They did not test as freshmen, so they only have 1 year of Aspire data versus 2. And then this would be that same class with their math achievement over time. Again, they did not test as freshmen. And we're going to look at ACT. Okay, ACT had a better test participation. I would assume the kids maybe wanted to test there more because it helps them out with other things in life. They had 11% of students didn't test at the 11th grade last year. Again, colors mean the same thing as proficient and advanced. The left is ELA, and the right is math. The ELA score comes from the English, the reading, and then the essay. And obviously the math is just the math portion of the ACT. So go ahead to the next one. So this is your last year's junior class. This would be your current graduating class. This would be their ELA results over time. I only went 5 years back, so you're going to see from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 11th grade, and how that trend looked. And then the math is the same. Okay. The next thing I believe I have on here is some comparison data. So I know sometimes we're curious as to what that looks like. And so I asked Tom who would be helpful to compare us against. And so we decided that we'd go with Wild Rose and Berlin, as that's kind of where our open enrollment sometimes trades kids back and forth. And then the rest of the data is with our conference schools. Okay, so that's the reason behind picking those schools that are here. So this is going to take all of our forward data for the district. Okay, so this is including the 3rd graders at Riverview, the 4th through 8th graders at Parkside, as well as the 3rd through 5th graders at West Granite. So all of our students who take the forward exam together combined compared to other districts. Okay, so as a district, if we took all of our forward students, we had 32.9% proficient advanced in ELA. And then you can see how that compares against the districts in our local area. Again, we know that the demographics and the situations of these districts are different, but we felt like this was a good comparison group for us to look at. Okay, we're going to stick with English language arts for right now. Okay, so now this is the Aspire. So I made a comparison chart for each of the 3 assessments. So this is a comparison of our ELA achievement, which is again that pink bar. It looks pink on here instead of purple, but the pink bar across is the proficient advanced line, and this compares our ELA, and this is just for last year's 9th and 10th graders compared to the 9th and 10th graders across those other districts. So you can see where we're on par and maybe some of the districts in which we're a little bit behind. But you can also see like Nakusa had 31% of their 9th and 10th graders not test. Okay. Whereas we only had 1.1% of our 9th and 10th graders not test. So. And that's an interesting comparison. This is our ACT comparison in ELA. Okay, so if we were just looking at just the kids who took ACT tests, how many of our kids were proficient advanced against the other schools in our conference and local area. Some interesting comparison data there. Okay, so now we're going to rewind back to forward exam. We're going to compare the math instead of the ELA. Okay, so this is if we took, again, all of the forward exam students across the district. So it's going to be your 3rd through 8th graders. And we just compared their math scores against the 3rd through 8th graders in our neighboring schools. We had 34 proficient. And you can see where that pairs up with the neighboring school district. Okay. Same thing with the 9th and 10th graders from last year. So this is just the Aspire comparison. when it comes to math. Again, you're looking at that, if you're looking proficient advanced, you're looking for that purple bar ends and looking across. And I kept the school districts in the same order for every slide, so you can kind of eyeball it that way. The next slide will be the ACT test. Okay, how many students were proficient or advanced on the ACT? So it'd be your juniors only contributing to this data.
What's the numerical line there?
What do you mean?
Like, is 25 that, what are we calling proficient or advanced? Is it a composite score or is it a math score?
I believe,
On the ACT.
I believe on the math, it's, I want to say 22, but I'm not confident in that. I can
Okay.
look that up for you. It's a college readiness benchmark.
Okay.
I know you have to get 34 questions right to get on the college readiness, because I was looking at it up with the math teacher today. So 34 out of 60 gets you there, but I'm not exactly sure what that comes to. I think it's 22, but I can verify. Is it 22? Okay.
Thank you.
So that's the percent of kids that are hitting that 22 or higher.
Sure.
Is what you're looking at.
Yep.
Sierra, this is one class or this is a
This is
trend?
just one class. So you'll see the trend data when he goes over the report card. The report card will do the 3 years together, which will be 17, 18, 18, 19, and then 2021. Because again, we're missing that 1 year.
This is last year's juniors?
Yes. Okay. Next slide is going to be your ACT composites. I figured you'd be interested in seeing this as well because this is the language that we're used to talking. So this would be all of our students' ACT scores last year averaged together. Our average was 17.7, and then if you look across, you can see the average of the other districts in our area in terms of an average composite score.
Do you think there'd be, I know we wouldn't be able to do it for other districts, but do you think there'd be any value in isolating, like looking at average, looking composites, I guess, maybe 3 groups of students, college-bound students, vocational-bound students, and workforce-bound students?
I think you'd have to be able to sort those students.
It would have to
based
be
on that.
self-reported on one of your plans, I assume, but
Right.
we test so few that we could probably take a look at that.
ACT itself doesn't have as much of that component as the pre-ACT, but the pre-ACT does have a big component in the beginning just with post-secondary options. So
Sure. But I mean, we could do that internally ourselves. I mean,
Yes.
it would have to be hand calculation, but I think I would be interested to see that.
Yeah, we really do. WASD is the portal. There's a WASD public, which any of you could go on at any time, where you could, a lot of these information I got from there, because obviously I don't have access to their scores unless I go on the public site
Sure.
as well. So I pulled out the public site. We also have an internal WASD that we use called WASD Secure, in which we can create any group of students we want and kind of follow their achievement over time. So I was actually doing that with one of the principals today. But you could create a group like that. Yeah, here's the kids who say they've been taught, how are they doing, versus here's the group of kids.
I think there's some value in looking at that data too.
And we test 100% of our student population?
If you
All of our juniors take the test?
go back to
Sort of
the,
99% or something.
Right.
Go back
Is
to
that,
the-
is that because we want them to, or we mandate them to?
so
or-
we had 2.2% of our students not test on the ACT.
Okay.
I would tell you that's probably attendance related.
and any student that does not take the ACT has to write a written opting out of the ACT, whether that's an email or a handwritten. So that 2.2% is contacted.
So on occasion, we do have a family request to opt their student out, and we do get written permission from that. We've had a couple other unique situations, but
How
I
many
mean, for the
kids are in
most
this
part, we
class?
test everybody.
How many kids are in this class?
Would be your senior classes here.
94, 95.
So that's 2 kids.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, where our test participation has not been an issue for our district. There used to be a penalty on the report card if you were under 95% participation.
Sure.
We've actually gotten rid of that deduction. They still do deduct at the federal level if you don't have 95%. So that's kind of the threshold that we're held to, and that's not ever been an issue for us. Even with COVID, I had the privilege of, I did most of the forward virtual. Jewel helped at her building and Doug helped at his building, but yeah, we even got all our virtual kids to come in last year. So
Excellent.
almost all, for a select few, but we did well with test participation. So this data is pretty complete and comprehensive for us. As administrators, we've seen the report card coming out. I will not be here at the next meeting, so Tom will be going over that with you. I put some observations together for you that he'll share with you. at that meeting, a lot has changed in the report card and how it's calculated. And so Tom will do his best to brief you in on that, and then if he can't answer your questions, then send them on my way or to CSED and help you. But it has changed quite a bit in how what their report card looks like visually, as well as how it's calculated. But that will be public November 16th, and then Tom will kind of help you go through that at the December board meeting.
So those 3 years, 2021, 18-19, and 17-18, correct? Those are the 3 years of input into the report card. So this data is the input.
I believe graduation might be like one behind that potentially, just because that data is fresher. But the achievement, growth, all of that data comes from the 3 years of Tom mentioned.
So like she stated that growth data will be a significant player for our school district. Sure.
And Tom will dive into this more, but the calculations hurt us. Some of our schools hurt us a little bit in terms of how the state chooses to calculate, changed dramatically the weighting of how our report cards are calculated at certain buildings. So it'll be interesting to look at and just do what you can to understand it, and let us know what questions you still have. And we'll do what we can to answer them. All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Any other questions or
Has the
observations?
staff gone through this? Have you gone through this with the staff at all?
Not this specific slideshow, I don't think, but all the good principals have looked at data with their staff.
So, I mean, we can come back at the next meeting, you won't be here. But
I won't be here, but they can speak to the
I
data.
just have that report card anyways.
just one question, to get it out of the way, Sierra, or for anybody. If I look at slide 22, even if you take the 19% in the state that didn't test, you've got 50% of students in math in the state, at least, probably quite a bit more, that are in, I'll call it the bottom two, I forgot it was below level and half level. Right? Do we feel like the bar is fair? I mean, I don't think Wisconsin is seen as a terrible education state. And you look at our number is 72% of our students in 9th and 10th grade are either underperforming or at level performing. 72, right? So the question would be, and it's a general question, I'm maybe not looking for a specific answer, but that seems like a pretty high number. Is it a fair bar?
I think that's a question to watch from the people who set the bars. I think that's a question I'm often asked, but nothing's changed. So they feel it's fair, and that's the ACT Aspire. So the ACT sort of sets their bar of what they think is college ready, and I feel like it creates a small pool of students based on the ACT score sometimes who they feel is college ready. And the ACT Aspire is tied to that in some way.
But if I see this, I expect to turn to an ACT math page and see a flashing number,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And it may be a little bit below than some of the neighboring schools, but it's not kind of, it must all kind of be around 72% of it.
Right.
Seems alarming to me.
I would say that it's safe to say that the Aspire is not as reliable a predictor as ACT as we would like it to be, and I think that's probably why the state is retiring that as of this year and looking at a different option. Now, they have to go through a whole bidding and adoption process, but like I said, the rumors that I've heard from the connections I have is that it'll probably be pre-ACT, which I think has a little bit stronger correlation with how the students will actually do it as an ACT score. Aspire is you know what ACT is multiple choice, ACT is 60 questions, 60 minutes math. Aspire is constructed response, it's drag and drop. It's very different in its nature. Whether or not the content is the same, it's just a very different test. And so I think the connection there has always been a struggle, at least from my perspective.
But correct me if I'm wrong though, but it's always, some of you administrators have been around for a while, it's always, so when math people get together to create the forward exam and the math items and like what they constitute as proficient, I mean, it's always been a position of argument of the math people are like, they should know this, like they should know this, this, and this. And then you have some other educators going like it's too daunting. Like, you know, you're really putting kids, you're really pigeonholing them that they feel like maybe I don't know math and I'm basic. And that's always I believe it's always when they've been developing standards, they've been developing assessments. That's always been an ongoing argument of like, oh, do you just want us to water it down then? And so make everybody happy, because some other states have done that. Yeah, so Ross, I think what you said is, I feel like it's always been an argument in this state about what is the threshold, like where should it be?
I mean, for example, I was working on some data for the building principals today with their target groups, which you'll hear about more next month. And I had, students, I was pulling in data from all our new students to the district. Okay, so students that we didn't have last year, I was looking up there for data to bring them into my report. And there was one particular student who was in the 65th percentile. And as a parent, if I'm looking at a data and I'm seeing 65th percentile, I'm probably pretty happy with that because my kid's above average, right? And that student is basic. So just that kind of perspective, like Tom's saying, is that line valid?
Yeah, where does basic fall? I mean, if the 50th percentile is an average student, can you say that kid's basic, all right? And then is everybody above that, proficient until like the 80th percentile? But
it's based on the scale cut scores. It's not norm reference, right? It's not based on where that kid falls amongst their peers. But that was just an interesting aha for me today to see a kid in the 65th percentile and then type basic next to it,
And they're not equal instruments, like below basic, so they'll drive that proficiency scale of being proficient may be very narrow as well as advanced compared to basic may be very big. So yeah, I mean
that's nothing any of us have any input on.
Over time that's changed so many times. It has been nice they've kept it consistent for a while.
Right.
I do appreciate that.
Then you can see your trends.
Yes, exactly, because before they were going back and forth and you didn't know like what you were comparing up against them.
Any other questions or anything, comments? All right. Item G, administrative reports. Tom, anything else to add?
Just so you guys are aware, we are doing a age 5 to 105, even if you're over 105, you can get a vaccine, in the high school library on Wednesday, 4 o'clock. So I know that I received a letter in the mail today from a group stating that pleading with us not to hold vaccine clinics in the school for youth, but we're going to have one. In the high school library, county health, La Clinica will be sort of operating it, but the school I'm not going to be giving shots, and so we'll see what our turnout is, and we'll go from there. But we're providing the place because we feel like our families are comfortable in our schools. So just so you know.
Administrators, since we're in Caitlin's building, anything else, Caitlin?
Not tonight.
Okay. Sierra, you want to talk some more?
I'll just say our EO family night went really well. A lot of the building principals were able to make an appearance to that, so it's just really nice to have those families back in the building and be able to interact with our staff. Just wanted to thank them for coming and let you know that went well.
Good.
And they provided feedback. We had surveys for ESSER 3, and it's our first families that have had the chance yet to provide that feedback. So we had some surveys just asking, what they felt about using the funds for their child's education. I haven't looked at the data yet, but we had some people say we can help translate.
If I want to swimming pool or something like that.
Yeah, those weren't options.
Cindy, anything with the money you want to add?
No,
We have
we're
money?
doing my bad time last week with the,
We got over it.
we're moving on.
Moving on. That's right. Eric, back there, anything to add?
time. Not at this time.
Yes, he's juggling some computers right now. Jewel, anything for review to add?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay.
Nothing to
Deb? Okay. Jim, your sidekick? Nope. Okay. Jen?
Just complimenting the musical production. If you got to see it, I thought they did an amazing job. I mean, it had its own uniqueness to it, but it definitely was a wonderful production again. Put that on, so compliments to that.
Good. Doug?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, good. And for Adam, we had the fall sports banquet. We had over 200 families there, so pretty high numbers for us. We held it in the middle school gym, so really well attended, so it was really nice. Board members, anything to add?
Just to follow up on Jen, we were at the musical on Saturday, and I think I think that's my 10th that I've been to. And, you know, the talent up and down, you know, it changes every year. But I tell you, the one thing that doesn't change is after that is over and they're out there taking their bows, especially the last performance, you can tell how much fun they had. Tons of work, but I'm happy to see that we continue to support the arts. And it was a kind of an edgy performance and a little artsy, and it was, you could tell they just had a blast, and I think it should be commended.
All right, student council.
Okay, so for our accomplishments, 31 out of 36 members attended our monthly meeting on October 13th. We discussed the results of the Google form that we collected, feedback from student council members regarding this year's homecoming. We will use these new ideas and constructive criticism this spring when we plan the 2022 homecoming theme, dress-up days, parade, and the WHS pep assembly. Our October meeting also included discussion on additional projects for the school year.
Our planning and future projects include our October and December blood drives were canceled due to the community blood drive staff shortages, but we still have our February 9th blood drive that is still scheduled as of right now, but we added an additional one that is April 13th to make up for the past cancellations.
We discussed the possibility of holding a bake sale for students on a day 5, which during the break between period 6 class and period 6 RTA, funds would be earned for student council, t-shirts, future projects, and 2022 homecoming activities. Details need to be determined along with Ms. Johnson's approval.
We are discussing plans for a possible holiday visit to the Heartland House, collaborating with the Watoma High School Key Club for the 2021 Washera County Holiday Project, and plans for a week of school-wide dress-up days for this winter.
And then our monthly meeting will be held on the 11th.
All right, thank you. Moving on to consent agenda items. Item 1, minutes A from October 11th, 2021 monthly meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve A and B.
Second.
Motion by Adam, second by Brian to take items A and B. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, staffing. A, retirement resignations. I'll entertain a motion to take items 1 through 5.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Adam, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion for items B, 1, 2, and 3. All in favor? Motion. I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second it.
You'll make him first. Make him first. You first.
Oh, you're asking for a motion? Okay, yeah, so moved. Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole's abstaining here.
I'm screwing you up.
Somebody second my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item I, action items. Item 1, business and finance. Item A, approve October 2021 treasurer's report.
Make motion approved.
Motion by Brian, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, approve vouchers and payroll.
I'll make a motion to approve vouchers and payroll.
Second.
Motion by Jeanette, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, approve staff gift card initiative.
This was proposed by board members, and so we run through finance, and they approved of the initiative, so we're bringing it for board approval. If approved, then Katie and I would start working on the number of staff members and we're thinking of obviously doing it through Quick Trip because it's universal through the state of Wisconsin, and so they can access a variety of goods through there during the holiday season.
I'd like to add to that, it'll be, we discussed in finance, it'll be coded to ESSER funds as well. So, it's an incentive to work during COVID, so.
And Adam also brought up, which I think is a good point, if we were to purchase through Quick Trip could potentially provide some incentive for some youth programming too. Like if we buy this many gift cards, can Quick Trip provide maybe some money in the student assistance or something of that sort, like they would for a softball team or a baseball team or something of that sort. So we'll ask that.
Have we determined the amount and the budget on this yet, or is that still developing?
So we were looking at $100 per card. So it could roughly be
$23,000
to $25,000.
Move to approve the staff gift card initiative.
I'll second.
Motion by Ross, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, curriculum student achievement. Item A, approve the course proposal, Culture of Healthcare, first consideration.
I treat you guys out earlier.
We're strong.
All right. So Jen can help me speak to this as well. But this comes from Renee Wilson, who is our family consumer science teacher, or one of two of them that we have at Oklahoma High School. Renee is just very forward thinking and keeping up to date with ways that we can continue to improve our program and give students opportunity to earn credentials. To give you a little bit of history, we had a class at the high school that is called People Skills for the Health Professional. What this proposal would do is replace that class, as Fox Valley Tech is updating their courses. We would replace it with a course called Culture of Healthcare, which has very much similar competencies that they go over. They would learn, again, professionalism, interpersonal, written communication skills within the healthcare environment. We do have quite a few students interested in the healthcare kind of track at the high school, so this would allow them to kind of earn some certification along the way. So if you look at page 2, on the bottom, it has a rationale. Renee put this together, and again, bringing you what she's put together. But students who take medical terminology, digital literacy for the healthcare professional, and then this course would earn a healthcare customer service representation certificate from Fox Valley Technical College. We're always looking to, again, add credential to what our students are doing in the classroom. In terms of funding for this class, we did have, Renee is taking this class as a student. That's kind of how they like to bring the teachers into the fold, is kind of have them take the course and walk through it. So she is in the process of doing that. Textbooks, we're estimating needing about 10 and about $50 a piece. We're estimating about $500. So really a minimal cost to upgrade the program and to, again, keep us updated with where the Fox Valley Tech is headed and allowing our students to earn that credential. So again, it's not a new class offering, but it's going to replace, with your approval, People Skills for the Health Professional.
Was that a Fox Valley credit course, or was that not?
Yes, but it didn't lead into the certificate like this one.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. So we're just, and thankfully, everybody on board that keeps up to date with what we need to do to stay current with what they're doing. This is just really to update our programming at the high school level. So new course, yes, but again, it's more of an update than anything.
I'll make a motion to approve the court proposal for Culture of Healthcare for first consideration.
I'll second.
Motion by Ross, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, Policy A, deny the school year 2021-22 Category C Midwest Softball Field Trip, second consideration.
You approved the first consideration, and then we gave them the task of like finding a game or making sure that we had something set. He wasn't able to secure any games next spring, and so I didn't want to let it lie. So really, what I wanted to bring it back is that you will now deny it because that game does not exist, or that trip does not exist because he could not find games in the Midwest.
I move to deny the field trip.
Second.
Motion by Adam, second by Ross. Any further discussion?
The only thing I would ask, did we also, was there a specific fundraiser that was attributed to this field trip?
Yes.
Or,
Oh, sorry.
there was?
Yeah. I don't know if it was exactly attributed to, but there was one to raise funds to, I think, assist with this and other things. And so I did ask Mr. Vaughn to reach out to Mr. Buck to determine where were the funds going to be going for that field fundraiser.
Because I think just, we've talked about fundraisers in general, especially with what we've asked of our community in recent years, and Nicole, you can second this with the Booster Club. I'm sure we ask a lot of people for a lot of things, so if it's not applicable, then I would think it probably shouldn't be done, but.
And if he is looking to try to reapply for this next spring for athletes coming back, maybe that's potential for them to raise funds and start putting money into an account. But that's what I was thinking. For the seniors, though, that would not be applicable.
Right.
Yeah. And
I'd just like it to be in the public though, in the paper, and let's make sure that we don't look like we're denying this field trip on any other basis than a procedural basis because there was not a game available.
correct.
I don't want people in the community saying, why are we letting the softball girls do this?
Haley, are you able to maybe insert that a little bit, that the trip was denied because they were unable to secure a game?
Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, Buildings and Grounds. Item A, approve the Riverview Elementary School Facility Study RFP.
So I had handed out the RFP last meeting just for you to have and to review, and then if you approve it tonight, then tomorrow morning I'm going to start making phone calls to 7 firms, and I'm going to find out if they, I can email them the RFP, if I can fax it to them, get it to them as soon as possible, so they can start working on it, and then follow the timeline therein. I know, Ross, you had mentioned before maybe a concern about the short turnaround. Again, within that RFP, we can change the timeline if we're getting communication back from these firms like, hey, I'm not going to be able to follow that. We can change it even without re-communicating that. We can change it for some firms within the process.
I just think as long as we clearly communicate that to them up front, right, they're aware that if this doesn't suit you, let us know right away.
We don't want you to be there.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. So, any questions you guys had about the facility study? I think Jewel and Jeff Miller will be giving the tours when it's time. That only makes sense because they live in that building all the time. And so they'll contact me. I'll make sure to get them set up with Jewel and Jeff for the tour. And I'll be working closely with Jewel and Jeff in the process.
Move to approve 4A, the Riverview RFP.
Second.
Motion by Ross, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, negotiations personnel. Item A, unpaid leave of absence request, medical leave for professional staff.
I believe at the last October regular meeting, you approved an unpaid leave of absence for an individual who did not qualify for FMLA. We anticipated there might be an extension of that after some of the medical procedures were done. There is, and so this individual is going to go further with some medical procedures. There is currently no cost to the district except that we are paying a sub for that individual to cover. We do have coverage for the individual for as far out as we need. However, we are asking, and we do have a return date. That'll be, if you can remember last winter, sort of the importance of a return date and coming back on a return date. We will start really watching that return date and really watching what we're getting from the doctors as we move forward. But I recommend that the unpaid leave of absence is granted up through the return date, which I believe is January 4th is the return date. So we'll be watching that closely.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Adam, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion?
Just one question. I mean, this is obviously all consistent with how we've handled these things in the past, right?
Yes, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item J, board governance. Item 1, discussion only legislative update. Barry? Barry. Barry.
Got the Canadian update.
Maybe one thing, it's not legislative, but if you want me to throw, they did come out this week and state that the WASD state conference was going to be in person. And so Katie got hotel rooms. The Fairfield, the Hyatt walkway is shut down. Skyway is down. So Fairfield's where we boys stay. Those are nice rooms. And so I didn't know who was interested in going. We would go on the 19th, probably usually in the morning. That's Wednesday. We could check out some things Wednesday afternoon. There's usually some things that evening. Stay overnight the 19th. The 20th, we would be there all day for sessions. And then we would come home on the 20th. We determined not to stay Thursday night because really there's not much on Friday morning to go to for the cost of staying Thursday night. So it seems like a million years ago. It was 2 years ago that we made that decision. So is there anybody who'd like to let Katie know now? Katie can register people who are interested.
I cannot go this year.
I'll let you know this week, Katie.
Okay.
Because we didn't really look.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we didn't know.
Yeah,
We thought it was gonna be online.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I'll just connect
Like,
that.
yeah, we can we have the hotel rooms.
Yeah, the rooms are booked.
So registration is not a big deal. Like we can register. And we'll let Barry and Karen.
Yep. Item 2, District Administrator Report. Item A, distribution of the WASD 2022-23 school calendar draft.
So after further deliberation with the admin team tonight, we're going to table this. I'm not going to distribute anything. I'll distribute something out in December. We want to look at some different ways that we can work with staff and make sure that, again, that students are getting the correct amount of instructional time, which may mean we look at adding like 5 minutes to school days, because it's in the state of Wisconsin, it's not days anymore, it's hours and minutes. Sierra and Caitlin work really hard to try to do curriculum during the day. That involves subs and pulling teachers out of the classroom. We're interested in trying to potentially add 5 minutes onto the school day, times the number of days we have. We believe that might buy us 2 full days where kids would not be in school, but we can have access to staff, so that we're not pulling staff out of the classrooms all the time. Because again, looking at our data, looking at still living in COVID and needing subs, we would like to keep the teachers in the classroom as much as possible. And so we made a decision tonight, even though we were ready to give this to you, that we may want to pull back, rework the numbers, make sure that we're meeting the state requirement for hours and minutes, and then we're prepared to have a couple snow days potentially in there. And we'll bring that back to you in December. We'll work with Dave Riley if we're going to add some time to the school day, and we would obviously communicate that to parents before the school year started next year. We would add it on at the end of the day, not at the beginning of the day, just so you're aware.
Board agenda items suggested for our meeting in December at all? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There we go. Second.
Thank you.